Welcome to another. Oh, I started that out. I started out by. Okay, let's do this again. Welcome to another Mentorship Monday with Michelle and Maren. I was about to say with magical, mystical, and I was about to say messy, Michelle. But welcome to another Monday. We're so glad that you're here. Maren, how's it going?
Oh, it's go it's going good now that you're here. Um, it's going really good. I have to tell you about kind of an experience that I did this past weekend, and
Hmm.
I kind of want your thoughts on it. Tell me what you
Okay.
think,
Okay.
or maybe Eric's thoughts. I don't know. We'll see. But okay, so I there's this place that opened up in our town that does like foot detoxes where like they do this like ionization system. Have you ever seen this? I saw this on TV like 10 years ago and I was like, man, I really want to try that. And then this place opened up in our town. I was like, I'm booking it.
Yeah.
So it was me, my mom, and my sister went, and like so they put this ionization thing in, and they hook you up, so like you're positively or negatively ground, and then this ionization thing grounds, and then
Hmm.
it's supposed to like draw all the toxins out of your feet. And then the
Hmm.
like water changes color. Have you
Right.
seen that? And it like gets
Yes.
like
I
really
don't know much about
disgusting.
it, but I've seen. I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, like the little pamphlet said, if it turns green, it's this. If it turns black, it's this. If it turns brown, it's this. If it, like
Hmm.
if it's like white flakes, that's candida. If it's black, it's the liver. If it's green, it's the gallbladder. Like
Hmm.
there's just all these different things that it's like, if it's this, this is what's detoxing. So I did it, and I was really expecting all three of our tanks to change color, different colors, because we all live very different lifestyles.
Yes.
And they were all very much the same. So then I was like, well, are they just the same because we're family and they do say that like you pass down like, different things via, and we're all female. So I don't know if you've heard the studies about how like your grandmother passes down the toxins to the grandchildren because
Hmm.
while the daughters in utero, also her eggs for her daughters are in utero. So like
Right.
the lineage. So like I don't know if we're just all like so similar because of that or if it's a gimmick. I'm not really sure. But whatever it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. The water I googled it later. The water turned like super brown for all of us, but that's because I guess the ionization like makes the particles rust like
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
quickly. So it's actually rust that's shedding into the water. Um, but then there was like all this gunk at the bottom of the water, and they were like, that is what is detoxing from your body. And so I had
Yeah.
like a whole bunch of heavy metals detox from my body.
Yeah.
And I had like a whole bunch of stuff from my liver detox from my body. And so they said the detoxing will keep happening for 72 hours. And
Hmm.
to like just drink lots of fluids. So I've got my
Hmm.
fluids. Although I will
Hmm.
say, I don't know how quickly it works, but I don't know. I was kind of like I had like a sinusy thing. It was like all in my ears. I can hear really well today. So maybe there was like a little detoxing. I don't know. But anyways,
Well,
super cool
I'm getting
experience.
I'm getting that it is authentic. Like it is.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. Yes. And what's interesting is like, because I'm just asking why is there no difference between the three of you? Well, what came out? So if the actual particles or if it was studied exactly what came out, you would see differences, but it's not, and whatever shows as far as the color, there's not as much of a difference. But the
Okay.
other thing is too, is that you do, um, you know how we use the term of being a vacuum cleaner or a washing machine energy. You are the one in your family that does that. You're like a
Mm,
washing machine. So you will pick up on, here's the throat, you will pick up on what, like, what's coming out of them in your connection. You recycle it. You move some of that energy out. Um, the metals is what's coming through the strongest, the metals. But I have to tell you, Maren, there's not, when I just look at your energy and what the toxins coming out, it's not heavy. It doesn't feel really heavy.
Okay.
So there'd be a lot of, it's in the environment, like things that we really, there's a lot of things that we don't have control over in our environment and the air we breathe despite our best efforts. So it feels like a lot of environmental type things.
I will tell you, it's just kind of crazy because this is going to actually lead into what we're going to talk about today. Because I was like,
Okay.
when I found out about that, I've been getting like dizziness,
Mm,
and I've been becoming very sensitive to alcohol, like
mm-hmm,
to the point where it's like not even worth it to have a glass. It's like I'll have a glass. I
mm-hmm.
don't even like feel buzzed or tipsy. I mean, like nothing.
Yeah.
Like one glass of alcohol doesn't do anything to me. But the next day, it's like I drank a whole bottle of wine. It's
Yeah.
awful. It's like,
Yeah.
why would I ever, like, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? Like it just
Yeah.
is completely not worth it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I was like, well, maybe my liver like is clogged, and I'm super sensitive to medications. And this is all new as my, mediumship has evolved, of course. But I was like, well, maybe it's my liver. My liver's clogged. I need to detox my liver. So I've been taking like liver supplements to help, like I don't know, it's like milk thistle and something,
Mm-hmm.
to help my
Mm-hmm.
liver. And then I found out about this and I was like, oh my God, like I know I'm gonna get all liver detox because my liver is overloaded. I'm dizzy. I'm, like all these things. And then I was talking to the guy and he said something, I don't remember what it was. And I was like, oh, I think I'm picking up on energy. I think when I'm dizzy, like spirits are coming by. And because I used to get that at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that's what it was, is like I started meditating and then all of a sudden I got anxiety, and like it's not supposed to be that
Mm-hmm.
way. It's supposed to be you have
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, then you meditate and it goes away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so like I don't know, there was something that the guy said and I was like, "Oh my God, it's not me. It's the energy." And that's funny because that's exactly what we're talking about today, right,
Yeah.
Michelle?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So
Isn't that interesting? It,
that is interesting.
so that, for those that were not part of Mara and I's conversation privy, we often don't know what we're going to talk about until we come together. And depending on what we experience throughout the week and what spirit brings to us. And of course, if there's something that is right in the front that we each would like to talk about. But this morning, what was coming into me was actually from an experience that I was having this morning, which I didn't realize I was having the experience until afterwards, which is common, right? There's
Yeah.
some things we can perceive ahead of time and kind of have those warning bells. And other times it's after we experience it. So it's energy, how energy affects us and reading energy. And that is what I do. I read energy, and I've always done that. I didn't always call it that, but I've always had I'll say a knack or a little talent, and I didn't always use it for the best because I would use it to try and control circumstances, right? Not
Oh, I
necessarily
want to hear that.
people,
Yeah.
but but so but it's patterns, understanding patterns of energy. And when I'm saying that, I'm speaking of things that I would pick up on, nuances of people's reactions. Uh, and just a preface too, many of us that are empathic, neurodivergent, that have a different way of picking up on things in the world, a sensitivity. we learn these things because we have been in circumstances where we can feel what we're being shown or what we're seeing is not what we're feeling. We're not seeing we can tell when something is not authentic. We can tell when a response is not authentic. And and I'm sure many listening to this can understand this, when we have been, whether it's in families or throughout growing up, friends, community, whatever situations we were in, we couldn't always say respond, because when you respond to, well, that's not what I'm getting, or this person's not telling the truth, it would be met with almost something's wrong with you, you're too sensitive, you don't know what you're talking about, because not everybody around you is picking up on the same thing. So
Yeah.
that's how my energy journey began. That's how and I'll just say really quickly, when I say I didn't always use it for the good, like, let's be real, I'm human too. And there's lots of things that I did in my past that I'm not, I didn't outright go to hurt people. But if I knew that, once I picked up on something that wasn't, maybe it was somebody doing something against me. And an example would be, if I felt like I was being hurt, it's almost like I would shut down a situation. I would shut down a relationship. I would walk away from somebody without really having an explanation or getting into it, because I would have so much information within me that I would be controlling the outer circumstances to protect myself. It's that kind of stuff, more or
Like, is
less.
it kind of like overwhelm? Like you get
Yeah.
flooded with like this emotional overwhelm because you're
Yes.
feeling their emotions and your emotions and everything. So you just kind of like, you're like, oop, and you step
Yes.
back.
I
Okay.
yes, I did a lot of that.
Okay.
And it would and sometimes I wouldn't be right. And because it's not that I would be picking up on authentic energy, but here's the thing. I didn't always know what was going on. So I'd be picking up on the energy, but that doesn't mean I understood the circumstances of somebody else. Or so there would be misunderstandings, miscommunication could take place. And the exhausting part of being an empath is when we don't understand ourselves, when we haven't deconstructed and got into the reasons why we are the way we are, or when we're reacting from a place of trauma, or we haven't had healing, the empathic energy is then put into the mental state in the mind. And when you're in the mind, you are flip-flopping and analyzing, over analyzing, trying to figure it out, trying to find the truth, trying to get
Yeah.
and so this is where the mind will play tricks on you, because when you're not in a place of being able to neutralize with the ego and understand the importance of the ego, that place will come in and tell you, oh, this person is trying to hurt you, or you better stay away from this, or you better. And there are times where that can be true and times where it's not. So the overwhelm would just be so much, because I would feel so much, and then my mind would be studying the patterns of whatever, and I couldn't not do that. That's the way I would function. So I was so exhausted, I couldn't do anything else. I was frozen all the time because I
Yeah.
had
Yeah. Like,
so much going on,
yeah.
right? So, of course, it took me many years to understand that and get to a point where the mind is used now with the information that I receive empathically coming from a different place. So the trauma has been transcended to understanding and compassion. And so the mind, when the emotion flows through, the practice of discernment to really say, am I going to invest in this? Or how do I explain it? It's not coming from a place of judgment. So I work very hard to do my best to not come from a place of judgment, even if I'm experiencing something on the outside of me. And I've got a lot coming in right now too, but even if something's happening on the outside of me, a lot of the things that I experienced and did myself has been so valuable to me because I can understand. I can understand when somebody else or circumstances, it really goes to anything. When something's happening, I don't have to know all the details. I don't have to know. It's not my business to know. But I know what I feel, and I'm able to have compassion and then discern whether I'm going to engage or not, and can come from a place of neutrality to either remove myself, but also have the humanity in somebody else's experience or whatever the situation is. Those are the gifts of being able to work with the energy. But here's the thing. So the whole reason why we're talking about this is, of course, we had said before in our previous recordings, we're talking about the heightened energy, the different shifts we're having on the earth, the shifts with the planets. We had a super moon last week, and that was huge. I don't know if you could see it. Did you see it from your point of view?
Oh, yeah.
It was crazy how close it was to the earth, and just, it almost looked like a cartoon. It was so big. Like, how could that be real? Like, that is just crazy. Anyway, all of these things combined, and with so much change that's taking place around us, it can be overwhelming. You know, it can be, no matter where you are in your journey or how, I know a lot of us keep ourselves, kind of out of that light or out of the busyness as best we can. But we're also learning how to re-engage with the world in this way that we have learned about ourselves, because life is not meant for us to hide. We're not here to hide away from everybody. We're here to be who we are authentically, and
Yeah.
to understand and have the compassion for ourselves that, we do need to come back in and keep going into ourselves. So here's what happened this morning. So it's an early morning start for Maren and I when we film. And it was getting close to the time that I needed to be ready. And it was like, something happened over here, something happened over here. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I forgot this. There was a little bit of one of those mornings, I call it, where my belt loops get caught on the kitchen knobs. Like everything's going on. Have you had that happen? Do you know what do you know what I'm talking about? It's like,
It's me all the time. Like, or my coat pocket will. And I'm like, am I just bigger than I think that I am? Why in the world? I hit my hips on door frames all the time. And I'm like, how did my hip hit and not my arm? Like, yes, all the time. I get stuck
okay.
all the time.
Okay, because that's how I describe if it's one of those mornings for me. I call it the belt loop on the kitchen cupboards,
God, I
because
love it.
I'm like trying
All
to
the
do something,
time.
pull
Yes.
back over here. So it's like it snaps me back into my awareness right away. What do you do, Michelle? Slow down, slow down. So I was
God, I
moving
love it.
a little faster than what my mind was moving this morning. And I
Okay.
found myself, and so Marcus was watching a video and completely in his own world, but he was really loud and just kind of, carrying on, and normally, like, that is my background. Um I don't find it irritating at all. But this morning I was irritated by the noise of the fan. Like, everything was irritating me. And I thought, like, I had this actual thought while I was getting dressed. I'm like, why am I so irritated? Like, why do
Mm-hmm.
I feel so irritable? And so when I got ready and I came down and sat at my desk, And before you and I came on, Maren, I lit my incense and I do my thing and I'm connecting with spirit and breathing and just centering myself. And the first thing I brought up was, why do I feel like this morning? Like what's going on? Why do I feel this way? And the first thing that I got was they flashed a text to me that was from a family member that I got. And this family member is having we'll say, an unhinged time right now. And I mean this in a way like they're just overwhelmed and feeling irritable. And even though I understand how energy affects us and everything, it affected me. And so they were showing me that because I was so focused on hurrying, because I was running, I was behind, I didn't set myself up to do the things I need to do like I normally would. I was tired. And this is like an example of all of these things that we do. And so it changed my disposition. I wasn't present. I was focused on getting down to my desk and being on time so I could do the things that I need to do today, rather than being in the flow of energy and allowing everything to pass through me. And as soon as I got that, I was like, oh, wait a minute here. That's right. And as soon as I heard that, it was almost like everything just, like it just
Wow.
calmed
Washed
right
away.
off of me. And,
Yeah.
but that is such a good example because life is life. Like,
Yeah.
this is not about this. And I get this a lot from people that I interact with and clients that I speak to, and they talk about, I'm not quite at this place yet, or I'm in a place where I'm reacting, or this is upsetting me. And it's important to understand that life is life. So the flow of energy, the flow of emotion going around us, to allow it to go through us, yes, practicing our peace, practicing the things that we need to do. This is exactly what I'm hearing. Putting the things in place that we need to do to set ourselves up for more success, not for perfection, for more success. So it is using the tools that we understand and putting our best foot forward, really, doing the very best we can. And this is why our healing, our being as authentic as we can be to ourselves, this isn't about showing up as anything for other people. When we're authentic to ourselves as best as we can be, and we put that forward without the attachment of, I don't want to say how this is affecting other people, because I still walk every day and I do put myself in other people's shoes. I think about from another perspective. I don't mean it in that way. I mean more of when I'm authentic with me, I'm being me, and I'm being me with flaws. I'm being me with the good, the bad, the ugly, the wonderful, the positive, all of those things, because that is life. That is the experience. There is no escape from the experience of life. We're going to go through things. We're going to experience things. The key is when we are practicing that, when we are working through the things that maybe we reacted from in the past. And I always use the word neutralize, because it's really what we do. As we're working through something, we neutralize it the best we can, because we're not always going to be perfect in every moment. But the importance of why that is something that I really state and push upon, and why that is important, is because when moments happen, when we do feel chaotic, overwhelmed, when we're saying, I don't understand, why do I feel this way? Or I felt this way for 3 or 4 days, and I'm doing all of these boundaries and I'm doing all of these things. Why am I still feeling this way? Well, a lot of times it's because, yes, we could be picking up on other people's stuff. And just as I'm saying that, I just want to say, when we're picking up on other people's stuff, it's not about the other person, because it's really easy to look at how we're affected energetically and point to, well, that person, so my family member, they're having a bad day. It's not their fault. They're not doing something to me. So it's my responsibility to look at, where am I at? What am I not looking at this morning? And so I wasn't allowing myself time. I wasn't giving myself faith. I wasn't giving myself the opportunity to be present and let go of all of the ideas in my head of, I've got to do all these things. I'm behind. I've got work to do. I've got laundry to do. I was allowing those things to take over my present moment. And I was being irritated. And that energy that came in actually came in to help me. So that family member that is having a situation, that's a energy flow coming into or through me. It's there to help me have awareness, to remind me to slow myself down and be present, because that's the exact
It's funny
information
that's
that's coming for that family member as well.
it's like we always tell little kids, when they get their emotions get the best of them, we're like, take a break, go take a break. It's funny that we don't do that for ourselves, how important
Yeah,
that go take a break is for everyone.
yeah.
Um, your story reminds me of the book, The Myth of Normal,
Mm,
where we are truly this person that has a homeostasis, but we go into these different environments that cause us to react differently to them.
yeah,
And with that, when we don't notice that it's the environment that's making us change, or the person that's energy is making us change, then we feel like we're the ones with the problem. And then, maybe we'll seek treatment for that, when really the problem is within our environment, or just noticing that these environmental changes do impact you know
yes,
yourself.
yes,
um
yes.
so I find that very interesting, that like what you're saying goes along with that
Mm-hmm,
book.
mm-hmm,
So I'm thinking of a friend that I have who is extremely empathic. It's funny, when I first found out what an empath was, I went to her immediately and I was like, this is you, not even thinking of me. I was like, this is you. Like, I've finally figured you out. And super empathic, super
mm-hmm,
like everything that you were saying, like where you just get run down and you get emotional
mm-hmm,
overwhelm and you just kind of like retreat because like all the emotions and energies are too much. That is her. And like, she's starting to like understand that. Like, she went somewhere and she's like, I just went there and it just depleted me of energy. And I was just so tired afterwards. And all I wanted to do was sleep. So she's like starting to like understand that different places and different people
mm-hmm,
impact her energy.
mm-hmm,
Um, I feel like you're the guru, and so it was like you immediately noticed and you immediately cleared, right? Like that's what like the the myth of normal would tell you, versus like
mm-hmm,
other people that aren't as good at monitoring their emotions and the energies that pass through them, or reading the
mm-hmm,
energy, as you would say,
mm-hmm.
like just kind of get things like layered up, and then you don't understand what you don't know, you can't,
Right.
it becomes unmanageable, right? I don't even know
Yeah,
if it would
yeah,
be like you don't know your homeostasis energy. It's just that all the energy just becomes unmanageable. You get
right.
that overwhelm that you were
That's
saying
right.
that
Because it's
happened in the
complex.
beginning. Yeah.
It's layered. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
take us like, how does, I'm like specifically thinking of my friend, how would she go from literally constantly living in overwhelm of all the energies every day to becoming like you, where she can like be like, "Oh, I'm being bothered right now. Let me take a break and
Mm-hmm.
filter this out." Like,
Mm-hmm.
what, because I hear you say, "Okay, well, don't blame it on the others in your life," which like I do feel like she has a lot of relationships that do overwhelm her.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
so again, don't blame, but also I do feel like accountability and like the myth of normal is like it's not you, it's the environment. You do need to put up some boundaries, but take us through for the novice, the beginner
Mhm.
of who's feeling that overwhelm every day. Like what are like our actionable steps that we can
Mhm.
do to where we
Mhm.
can start cleaning and processing energy better?
So the first thing would be get yourself a little notebook.
A
Get yourself a
notebook,
little
okay?
notebook, and you want to take stock of, and this is observation. So we can't make changes until we have awareness of what needs to change, until we have the awareness of, okay, what do I need to do? So the first thing that we want to do is spend a couple of days. It's better if you can do it for say 3 days or even over a week, and not while you're on vacation, not while you're in your normal day-to-day life. Observe your mental, emotional, and physical being. And so what you're doing is you're going to keep a little notebook and you're going to mark down how you felt. You're going to mark down, how do you feel emotionally? How do you feel physically? How do you feel mentally when you notice these states that are coming up that feel like they are unmanageable or starting to become unmanageable? So you're number one, you're in observation mode. Observation is things like, I'm in traffic. I have no patience in traffic. People are cutting me off. I'm getting ticked off. So if that's where you first noticed it in that day, and some people might notice it the minute they wake up. So don't try to judge why. You're simply starting out with what? What is it? How does it make you feel? And so you're just going to keep track. A week would be ideal because it's going to give you the variance and it's going to give you more of a pattern. So if you can do a week or say 5 days, that would be great. Now, during this time, if there's anything else that comes up, if you feel there is an individual you're connecting with that you feel a certain way after. So I feel really drained after I've spoken to this person. Okay, jot it down. I go into such and such a building, and every time I go in this building, I feel this way. So you're just practicing the noticing, the observing. Okay, so you're going to do that. You're going to write down as much as you would like, as little as you would like. But truly, the more you can observe and use your environment, yourself as the teacher, the better your results are going to be, the more information you're going to be able to gather. So then step 2 is when you get to the point where, okay, I've recorded my week, my 5 days, and you're going to sit down and you're going to look at it. And you might already have some feelings, some intuitions about things. You might already be leaning towards, I know that when I'm with this person, or I know that when this goes on, this is how I feel. And it's so important that you're not judging this, because what tends to come in the early parts of working through this is the judgments of, yeah, but they can't help it because, or if I don't know what else I would do. So try to not allow yourself to go into the rabbit holes of trying to, very important for empath, to not sit in somebody else's energy and try to figure it out from their point of view. You need to keep bringing it back to yourself.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep bringing it back to yourself. You are not being difficult or unloving or uncompassionate to another person, because you are doing this because you're at a point where it is impossible to function in reality. It is impossible to function in your life. You are not able to live or feel no peace. So you're doing this for you. So remind yourself of that. This is for you. So say you start to notice some patterns. yes, I do notice when I talk to this friend, this is how I feel. Or I do notice that when I walk into this restaurant, this is how I feel. I do notice that in the morning when I first wake up, I'm great. And then within 5 minutes, I feel like I'm rushing all over the place and feel out of control. So you're starting to look at these patterns. So the important thing to do with step 2 is, what can you do? So automatically, is there anywhere that you're putting your intentions or your focus to anything on the outside of you? Is there a repetitive pattern? Am I doing something that I don't really want to do? Am I not being honest with myself? Is there anything that I can remove from my life? And or anything that I can say do less of. So what you're doing is you're actually using the prioritizing with your emotions and your mental state. Look at where you are spending a lot of your energy focus. And now you might start to notice that, you're scrolling on your phone for a period of time. And this, you got to get really honest with yourself when you're doing this. Because if you're not willing to be really honest with yourself, you're not going to have the results that are going to be life changing. Because the point of doing this is you're ready to get serious. You're getting serious about changing the situation that you're in, or the feelings that you're taking control of it. So you can only be as honest with yourself as you can be. So if you are spending 3 hours a day doom scrolling on social media, or you're watching things that are like the news, or whatever it is that you're looking at, it's going to have an effect. No matter what you are sitting in, think of yourself as a steak, or if you don't eat steak, vegetables that are marinating, right?
Tofu.
Tofu. There we go. Thank you. So you're putting in all your spices and your oils and everything, and you put it in that container, and you close it, and you shake it all up, and you set it away, and it's marinating in all those juices. Well, you have the control over what you're putting the marinade. You have control as to what you're adding into this. So if you are marinating in a lot of negativity or in a lot of heaviness, then you're going to have results that match that heaviness. And it's going to come up. It has to. Because if you are unaware, or in the beginning of your journey where you are not too sure exactly how things are affecting you, you just know that you're affected, right? You have to be able to look at those patterns and to be able to see it. So for me, one of the first patterns I identified was having CNN on all the time. And this is what I did right up to my cancer diagnosis, is I had it running in the background continuously. And I didn't really pay attention to it until I started to shut it off and realized, wait a minute, and the importance of this as well is also being able to, because with these patterns, you're observing, but you're also your own scientific experiment. Because if you have a feeling like, wait a minute, well, I don't want to shut off the news completely, I don't want to disconnect from seeing what's going on in the world, then you don't have to, right? Maybe so when you go into step 2, into the next week, maybe take some of these things, like if you find you're on the news or on doom scrolling on whatever, if you're doing it mindlessly, reduce it. If you feel that you can't completely cut it out, then reduce it. But if you can cut it out, say for stage 2 for the next week, because you want to experiment your energy, you want to see how it affects you. And it's important to try these things for more than one day, because again, you need to be able to see some consistency so that you can really compare yourself to your earlier state. That's why having a notebook is important, so that
So,
you can
what do
record
you
this.
do? Sorry. What do you do if you are seeing that the negativity is somewhere in a place that you can't exactly change, like a toxic work environment, or not even I guess that would still be toxic. I was going to say not even toxic, but like high stress, but I guess that's still toxic. Like,
Mhm,
and you're like, wow, I'm noticing it at work. And
mhm,
every time I get around these people or, I get these high level negotiations I have to do. And that
mhm,
just
mhm,
really tanks my energy afterwards. Or, or like you live with your mom and she's negative, or,
mhm, mhm.
like things where you
Things that
feel
you
like
can
you
just
can't
change.
change it.
Yeah.
Huh?
Things that are not like this, I can't just cut this out. I can't stop
Correct.
going. Right. We're in
Yes.
a place. So that's a really good point. And that's why recording the patterns and looking at all of these things, it's not really about the one thing, it's what it adds up to at the end of the week. And so that's why looking at all of the things, like if you're on the internet, if you're, you know, if the big thing is the environment and that's where you feel the most of it, you want to take the things that you have control over and omit them. Because what you're really doing is you're going into a place from observer to being able to neutralize as much as possible. And
Yeah.
neutralizing happens because everything comes back to within. You may not be able to change the reality of, say, whatever the energy is in a building, in an office, with other people that you're working with your mother. But here's where we get into the quantum effect. Okay. So here's where we get into reality, perceptions, and as we move along, and these are things that are not going to happen instantly. This is the inner work that it takes focus and time and dedication to work through, but it has great effect in your life. But it's so important that you have consistency with it. But so here's the thing. If it is the environment, and if we are taking charge of ourselves, so the observation, being able to understand where our emotions are, being able to find out what our triggers are. Because it's not just if you're affected highly by the environment that you're in, just like we were talking about with all of the layers, there will be a point that if you consistently do this, it won't matter what environment you walk into. It doesn't mean you won't sense things and pick up on things, but you won't be as effective, and you'll know where your limits are. You'll know
Uh,
what you want to engage and what not to be. But when we get into the
okay.
quantum piece of things, sorry, go ahead.
Hold on.
Why?
So really quickly before you go quantum on me. So what I was picking up on that was like, so once you have your awareness, because this is what like the myth of normal is, like it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And then finally it's like the last thing that's setting you off and you don't realize that you've had all this building. So like once you become aware, like, man, at work when everybody is sitting around at lunch and they're, maybe bitching or, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I love that I feel like I can't cuss, or like talking about like other coworkers or whatever, like there's some kind of like negative thing that starts happening,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
you start to see that repetition, that pattern that you told us to look for. Then maybe you can start advocating for yourself or like making changes, right? So, okay,
Yes.
well, I'm not going to
Yes.
eat lunch. I'm going to tell everybody I'm going to go get lunch, or I'm going
Yes.
to take a working lunch, or I'm going to go for a walk and eat lunch
Yes.
on my walk. Or like you can start to strategize to like change that situation. Is that what I'm
Yes.
hearing? Or
Yes.
like, okay, or like, if it's a family member or something like that, then you can start to
Yes.
strategize. Okay, well, it's clearly this environment. I need to start making a plan to go to another environment, or
Right. Right.
like, okay.
Yes. So that's so it's putting the power back into yourself. So you're just going back inside. So what can I do in any of these circumstances? And exactly that, I'm going to remove myself. I maybe, if I'm on the phone every day, I'm going to limit the amount of conversations that I have with this person. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
at the lunch table and there's a lot of negativity going on, all right, because you're not here to spout to everybody else how they need to change or what they're doing is wrong. Because remember, everything happens for us. So if that's happening in your environment and you're picking up on that, well, it's handing back the power to you, saying, now, what will you do about that? How will you handle this? And it's not saying, well, these people need to change before my conditions can change within me, because that's
Right.
not how it works. The condition
Yeah.
has to change within here to be able to experience it differently on the outside,
Yeah. And
right?
take action. Right.
And
Yeah.
take action. So this is where we start to work on boundaries, on and this is a very difficult stage. I'll just say, I shouldn't even say difficult, but it's hard. It is hard because you have to remember, if you've been existing this way for your whole life and people know you as that way, people know you as the person that they perceived. And most times you're not being perceived as to how things are really going on inside of you. And if you're like me and you've spent most of your life masking that stuff, or it only comes out when you get extremely overwhelmed, is when it really comes out, then it's surprising when people start to notice the, why is she not hanging out with us anymore? Why is she not doing the same things that she used to do? What changed? And again, it may not be noticed immediately, but you have to remember, if you've got people on the outside of you, circumstances that are now focusing on you and going, well, you're hurting me, or so we'll say, like with the mother example, right? So if somebody's living with a parent and that parent is extremely negative for whatever reason, and the adult child or whomever it is having a really hard time in that environment. So now they're spending time sitting outside, they're going for walks, they're keeping their engagement at the times of day where the energy is a little better, like whatever those circumstances are. Well, the mother is going to pick up on the shift. And so is that going to create some energy bumping up against each other? Yes. And so you have to be prepared for that, because people will perceive from you that you're pulling yourself away. And even though it's not about them, it's not about them, it's not a judgment as to what's going on in anyone's life, your coworkers, your parent, it's not about them. It's about you making a screeching halt of awareness and doing the things that you need to do for you. And you are not responsible, and empaths hear this, you are not responsible for the reactions that are created because of the decisions that you make. Because, and the compassionate part is, this person, this parent, my coworkers, whomever, are used to the me that they've perceived based on the actions and reactions I've taken for all this time. And no matter how much talking you feel that you need to do, because you may feel this, listen, it's not you, it's me. I'm trying to do this. I'm making these changes. I'm trying to, no matter how much you do, if a person's not in a place of hearing that, they're taking it into themselves as something is wrong with them. And there's a reaction. You'll have some people that'll totally get it, and some people that will go off the deep end feeling like you're doing something to hurt them. And when you're empathic, you have to understand that that is part of the process of detachment. It doesn't mean that you have to detach yourself from all people in your life. It doesn't mean that relationships have to end, but you're detached from the outcome and not willing to take the responsibility of everyone's emotion. You're no longer going to do that for them. You're going to keep going back into yourself, and you're going to keep bringing it back and reminding yourself of what you need to do for you, no matter how little or how big those actions are. And the quantum piece of it is, when you do these things, you have to remember we are multidimensional. We are dealing with different realities. Another word for that is different perspective. Another word for that is different beliefs. Okay? So when you have all of these things going on around you, when you are shifting your beliefs about yourself and how you perceive the world, because as you do these things, you empaths become more and more confident, more solid in who you are. Because when you act authentically and you're not acting from a place of hurting, you're not trying to hurt anyone, you're trying to better yourself, which is better for everyone. So when you are doing these things, it's continuously going back in and saying, am I taking this action? Am I saying this thing? Am I removing myself from the lunch table and taking a walk outside because I want this person to feel bad? I want those coworkers to feel bad? No. They're upset with me. Is it my responsibility to explain it? This is a conversation you're having with yourself. No, I tried to explain it. They don't understand. They just keep saying, why?
Well,
That's the detachment of coming back inside
because
and saying, because
the
it's for me.
empath feels so responsible for all their feelings, right? So you're like, oh gosh, I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want them to think I don't like them. So I'm not going to go on a walk. I'll eat with them and I'll endure all the negativity so that everybody knows I'm a likable person.
Yes, yes. And so
That's
the
the empath.
important it
Yeah.
exactly. And the importance to this is being okay more and more and more. And this will happen authentically. This will happen in your system organically by continuing to do this process,
Hmm.
because then it becomes a natural thing. You start to do this naturally. So it takes less thought. So the more and more you go ahead, the clearer you become. The clearer you become on what you prefer to engage with and not. The clearer you become as to maybe that job that you've been in for 25 years is really something that you've wanted to change for 20 years. And you've stayed out of fear, but now you feel so much clearer and you're starting to have opportunities and ideas come in for something else. And then boom, another job gets offered to you, right? So on the quantum level, we are dealing with different aspects of reality because we're dealing with different aspects of ourselves, different layers, vibrations, frequencies, points of energy from ourselves. So we're now obtaining these new spaces in the reality that we exist in. So our thoughts, our opportunities, all of these things start to change. But it's a very internal process. So from the outside, nobody's noticing anything except for you're just not doing the same thing.
Hmm.
Nobody's really noticing. So what, and you have to get to this point, and and by doing this, you get to a point where it becomes you, and that is the most authentic version of you. And that confidence, because when you no longer have fear, which I had for so many years, fear of the perceptions that other people had of me, because I knew they didn't understand. I couldn't even understand it. So I knew that I was being looked at in ways that were being judged based on my reactions to things or my behaviors, my coping mechanism, all of those things that would come out. And many times I just fell to a place of, well, that is who I am. I'm a mess. Just like how I said in the beginning, mess, right? And that was my nickname. That was my nickname as a kid. It was badness was my nickname, or messy Michelle, because everything I did was so chaotic and messy. So it was kind of like, oh, Michelle, she's all over the place. She's not grounded. And I wasn't. That's the truth.
Well, I think you bring up a good point about like perceptions, and people were like, oh, Michelle, she's just this. I feel like yeah, we teach people how to treat us, right? So once you start putting up those boundaries or making those changes, you're not going to be, oh, she's the one that we can, when there's work drama, we can call her and get her involved in on the work drama because she's never a part of the drama because she's always on a walk or she's not in that like social circle anymore. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
like you kind of like make these changes and then they'll be like, "Oh, Michelle, she's always on walks. Like let's not involve her in this." Or you know what I mean? Like you
Yeah. Yeah.
become like I feel like my husband had to do he's the one I was thinking about with that. He had, a job and it was like there was a lot of drama and everybody would call everybody about the drama and then finally and he would just be like exhausted at the end of the day and he's like it's not even the work that's exhausting me, it's all the drama that people keep bringing me into. And so
Yeah.
he had to start getting like really firm and not um like if people would be like, oh, did you hear about, he'd be like, hey, I don't want to talk about her right now. Do you have something to talk to me about work with? I'm really busy. And he started putting up those walls and then pretty soon people stopped calling him and then he got another job, so quantumly also that
Yeah.
changed as well. And
Yeah.
now he's like, oh my gosh, he loves his people. He's like, this is the best people I've ever worked for, this is so great. Like he's so happy with, and like I think that's what he manifested and what
Yeah.
he really truly
Yes.
was working
And
towards.
it's
So
so interesting because because nothing is disconnected. So when we are in alignment with ourselves, and this is a process for people that are very empathic, and when we're in alignment with ourselves, it opens up everything. And so these are acts of self love. This right
mhm,
here, yes, having a bubble bath and good eating and all of that, those are all self love. Those are all
mhm,
wonderful. But to get to the depth of what we truly need, self love comes from really being honest with the self, not being judgmental on ourselves, not saying, oh,
mhm,
why did you act this way? Or you didn't communicate this well enough, or you always kept to yourself. You didn't tell the truth of how you really felt. Rather than taking that approach, you take the approach again from the observer and say, hey, you didn't know what you didn't know at the time. You did the best you could. You came from a place where you were either in survival mode or just trying to get through the day or trying to, rather than put all of that heaviness and negativity, which is a practice as well. But self love is the same frequency. Giving this to ourselves as empaths has the same frequency as currency. It's a high energy currency. And so that vibrates with abundance. And so whether that is an abundance of opportunity, an abundance of relationships, an abundance of financial flow, an abundance of peace, whatever it is that you are obtaining, what you are doing is you are matching your frequency with that version of you that exists. And so that's what opens doors.
it's just so hard because I think like we have this vision for ourselves or our future. Like I'll just use my husband for example. Like he was like, "No, I am this person at this job and that's who I am." And so like to think about changing jobs at the time or like I'm in this relationship and I'm so and so's wife or I'm,
Yep.
so and so's daughter and like you have this like vision for your life, your future and who you are, but when
Mm-hmm.
it conflicts with
Mm-hmm.
like authenticity,
Yeah.
it's so hard to switch. So I guess, I think you're right. Like when you just follow your heart with self love and like, I'm doing this for myself and you're making positive changes for yourself, then I think, yeah, your authenticity can come out, like you said. And it helps you flow with, or you will be in flow with the energy, like with the energies that happen versus just becoming overwhelmed. Like I think you
Right.
can, yeah,
Right. And
manage that more.
it's the more you do this, things will come to you. So when you feel irritated, agitated, you recognize those things. You're not as reactive. I mean, it's not a walk of perfection. You're going to have days where you might, like this morning for myself, I felt very reactive and short-tempered, but the awareness is there. I know something's not right. So what is it? Why?
Mm-hmm.
And that's always got to be our question. We have to be open at all times to learning and to understanding. So why? Well, once I understood why, then I was able to clear it. I was able to move it. And that's and I've been doing this for 10 years consistently,
Mm-hmm.
but not speaking it outwards for 10 years. Right? So it's for people that are not in my day-to-day life, I guess that it may look all kinds of ways, but I don't care as far as the perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
I know that by sharing this, the right people will hear it and be able to work with
Mm-hmm.
it. And when I say I don't care, I don't take responsibility for people being upset that I'm not the way I used to be. I'm still me. I'm still catching my pants on my cupboards. Those
Yay.
things still happen. I'm still me. I'm still
So glad
quirky and
there's someone else in this world that does that too.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so funny. Um, okay, a really good talk. I feel like I could talk for probably 2 more hours about this
yeah,
because I still
yeah,
have so many more questions, but I
hmm
think this is like a good
yeah,
break point and gives us lots of I like just okay, so I wrote down our steps just to recap. Get a notebook
hmm
and then awareness and observation. So just observe your emotions, your mental and your physical.
hmm
So observe all of that for 1 week. What situations, how they made you feel in all those ways.
hmm
Don't judge the people or judge yourself.
hmm
And then look for patterns.
hmm
And then also where you're spending your energy. I love that.
hmm hmm
And I think that's so important. That is really important, right?
yeah,
That's so important because if you're spending it constantly like, oh, and like in this state of overwhelm, that's not fair to you. That's not fair. That's
it's
not why
not.
you came to earth to live life. It's
But
not.
think
And
of
then,
I'll add something else quickly too before it slips my mind. But you can put value to where you're spending your energy because it's currency, right? So
right.
if you were to say I have 200 points a day, okay, so assign points, put a point system to your experiences, and say this one was like a 50 pointer. I spent 50 points here, and see how much
Yeah.
you have reserved because
Yeah.
that is exactly what's happening. And so if
Yeah.
you think in terms of finances or points or anything else like that, it is all connected. It
Yeah.
is all connected.
Yeah. And then um the fifth step is phase two, which is make the changes and observe, did it help or did it not help? And I think that's, we are the creators. We can make changes. We're not victims. We are creators. We can make changes. And when we make the little changes, the big changes happen too.
Yes,
So,
yes. And be patient with yourself. Be patient.
yeah.
It's not an overnight process, but it
Yes.
is worth it. It is life changing.
Yes. Yeah. Love it.
Yes.
Okay.
Good one. And
Oh my
happy
gosh. So
Thanksgiving.
good.
Happy Thanksgiving
Thank you. Thank you. I'm
with
excited.
a lot to
Yummy
be
food this
grateful
week.
for. Yeah.
We do. We absolutely do. I'm so grateful for you, Michelle,
And I am
on
for
our
you.
talks. And I'm so grateful for everyone that
Yes.
listens. because
Yes.
we have created a community, and I love reading the comments because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a community. This is just so amazing. That's what we both envisioned, was just this
Yes.
community where we get to talk about like
Yes.
serious topics to help better your life
Yes.
and teach about, all these wild, energetic, spiritual concepts.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's really
It
amazing.
really
We
is.
really appreciate every single person that listens and that will listen in the future.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you,
Yeah.
Michelle. Just
Appreciate you too.
amazing.
Thank you.
All
You as well.
right.
Okay.
Well, everyone, have a great week, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.